Okay, so this is going to be our last video of the day, talking about metaphors and slavery in the Tempest. So, all right, Caliban. So both Caliban and Ariel are very different. One way of thinking about Ariel is a kind of spirit of air, a spirit of fire, a spirit of water, and Caliban is like some kind of earth spirit. He's got rocks on his face in the movie that I recommend. Um, so Caliban is or maybe Ariel is like air and fire, and Caliban's like water and earth. But they're both slaves. They're very different from each other, but they're both slaves. And Prospero calls them. He calls him a slave. Um, so here they talk about Caliban, dull thing, I say so. He, that Caliban, whom now I keep in service. Thou best knowest what torment I did find thee in. Thy groans did make wolves howl and penetrate the breasts of every angry bears. It was a torment to lay upon the damned, which Sycorax could not again undo. Right, so he says, like, Sycorax, when she put you in that tree, was torturing you. It was mine art, there's that word again, art, but magic, I mean, so it was mine art when I arrived and heard thee, that made gape the pine and let thee out. Why, thank thee, master. If thou more murmurest, I will rend an oak and peg thee in its knotty entrails till thou hast howled away 12 winters. So he's threatening Ariel here. Like, I'm going to put you back in another tree for 12 years if you don't shut the fuck up. Um, Prospero's not maybe that good a guy. Um, okay, cool. So that, I think, ends sort of Ariel's thing at the top here. And Ariel promises to do well. He says, I promise I'll do what you want. And he says, okay, I will free you in 2 days. That's at the end of the play. That's my noble master. So Prospero, Miranda's been asleep this whole time because Prospero made her go to sleep with a spell because he had other shit he had to do. Then explained to Miranda the whole story. But now they're going to go visit Caliban. So he says, shake it off, meaning the sleep. Come on, we'll visit Caliban, my slave. There's that word again. Right? It's not really a metaphor. Caliban's literal. I'm sorry. Caliban is literally a slave. That part's not a metaphor. What is a metaphor is Prospero with Caliban and Ariel, maybe a metaphor for all slave owners everywhere who invade countries like Prospero invaded the island, who enslave the native people, the people they found there. Prospero finds Caliban. He finds Ariel. They live there. And Prospero's like, I'm in charge now. I have power. I have magical power, and therefore I can force you to be my slave. So they go visit Caliban. Um, a slave who never yields us a kind answer. Right now, right? I guess he doesn't yield them a kind answer. Well, you enslaved him. He probably didn't like you very much. 'Tis a villain, sir, I do not love to look on. But as 'tis, we cannot miss him. He does make our fire, fetch our wood, and serves in offices that profit us. What ho, slave Caliban, thou earth, thou speak. So they talk to Caliban. He calls him slave and he calls him earth because he's like a lowborn. Villain up above here also you'll remember from means lowborn. We talked about that in Othello. Come forth, I say. There's other business here. Come forth, thou tortoise. I don't know why he calls him that. Does he look like a turtle? Is he hunchbacked? I don't know. Fine apparition, my quaint Ariel. Caliban says, Prospero calls Caliban, thou poisonous slave, got by the devil himself upon thy wicked dam, that's mother, come forth. So he literally says, Caliban, your mom had sex with the devil. Now maybe this is a story that has magical creatures and witches and shit in it. Maybe that's true. Maybe Caliban's mom was a witch who summoned up a demon or a devil and had sex with the devil, and Caliban is the devil child. It's possible. On the other hand, the only reason we have to think that Caliban is the product of the devil, is the devil's son, is because Prospero says he is. Well, shit, guys, that's something slave owners everywhere say. In the history of American slavery, people said that black people, slave owners, said that black people were cursed by God. That's why their skin was black, and therefore they should be slaves. God wanted them to be slaves, and he marked their skin with darkness and blah, blah, blah. So, like, of course they're going to say that, because if you're going to have human beings be slaves, you better have a reason why it's okay to treat these human beings like property. Well, the explanation the slave owners came up with is, well, it's okay to treat them like property because God cursed them. God hates them, and that's why they're slaves. Prospero says, oh, hey, Caliban, your dad was Satan. Well, maybe, I'm not sure Prospero's a trustworthy person to listen to here, since one of the reasons Prospero might be saying Caliban is the child of the devil is because Prospero wants to control Caliban and force him to do shit. If Caliban is a human being, like Prospero, it's going to be harder to do. But if Caliban is a devil or something, then, it's a way of explaining it. So again, you can see there's a metaphor here for slavery, for colonialism, for invasion, for takeovers of another people's country, enslaving them. Um, this is a fascinating play. Okay. All right. Caliban says, "And wicked dew is ere my mother brushed with a raven's feather from unwholesome fen drop on you both." So he's kind of a southwest wind blow on you and blister you all. Or so Caliban is really wishing that they get diseases. Unwholesome fen is like a bog, a swamp. Get swamp gas on you and get blisters and die. Prospero says, "For this be sure, tonight thou shalt have cramp side stitches that shall pen thy breath up. Urchins shall forth at a vast of night, that they may work all exercise upon thee. Thou shalt be pinched as thick as honeycomb, each pinch more stinging than the bees that made them." So Prospero says, because you talk to me like this, I'm going to torture you tonight. I'm going to send little creatures to bite you. Again, not great. Does not make me like Prospero that he is like, I'm going to torture you for talking back to me. Caliban ignores him. Caliban says, "I must eat my dinner." And then Caliban says something interesting. He says, "This island's mine by Sycorax my mother, which thou takest from me." That's interesting. He says, "Listen, I was born here. This is my island. You stole it from me. When thou camest first, thou strokest me and made much of me. Wouldst give me water with berries in it, and teach me how to name the bigger light and how the less that burn by day and night." So when Prospero first got to the island, he was nice to Caliban, and he taught him to speak. He taught him what the words for the sun and the moon, and he gave him good food to eat. "And then I loved thee, and showed thee all the qualities of the isle, the fresh springs, the brine pits, the barren places, and the fertile. Cursed be that I did so." So in the old days, when Prospero first arrived, Caliban, he was nice to Caliban. He taught him language, um, taught him how to name the bigger light and the less, that's the sun and the moon, and he was nice to him. And Caliban regrets it because he says, "Cursed be that I did so. All the charms of Sycorax," meaning all the evil spells, toads, beetles, bats, light on you. For I am all the subjects that you have, which first was mine own king. He says, I used to be king on this island. He was king because he was the only living creature on the island, but he was king. And now he's a slave, and Prospero is the king. And he says, I used to be king on this island, and you took it from me and enslaved me. One of the most interesting things that Shakespeare does is he's really raising a lot of uncomfortable. This is supposed to be like a fun play, and he's raising all these kind of uncomfortable issues about slavery. It's interesting that Shakespeare has him voice all of these concerns. Here you sty me in this hard rock while you do keep me from the rest of the island. Like Caliban showed him everything on the island, and now Prospero has him locked up in one area, and he used to have the whole island to himself. Thou most lying slave, from stripes may move, not kindness. Stripes is a whiplash. Thou most lying slave, from stripes may move, not kindness. I have used thee, filth as thou art, with human care, and lodged thee in mine own cell, till thou didst seek to violate the honor of my child. And here is another really uncomfortable, sort of creepy moment in the play. The issue here is that Prospero was friends with Caliban until Caliban tried to rape Miranda. And that was the point at which Prospero made him a slave. Now, Caliban does not deny this. This is something I said, the thing about his having the devil for a father. Maybe that's not true, but this is true because Caliban happily admits it. He says, I wish I had raped her. He says, oh, would that it had been done. Thou didst prevent me. I had peopled the isle with Calibans. He could have had all these children with Miranda if he could have raped her. So this is a very complicated situation in which Prospero arrives at the island, meets the natives, and this native tries to rape his daughter, so he enslaves the natives, and then Prospero is king, and Caliban is a slave. I hope you can see how complicated this is. There's a lot to like about Caliban, and there's a lot to dislike about Caliban. There's a lot to like about Prospero, and there's a lot to dislike about Prospero. Shakespeare's amazing because he is so complex, and you really see that here in these two characters. they're very, very complicated people. So I think that's it for the day, and I'll pick this up next time. You guys are the best.